Take a look at our players as we head down to the stage as they get prepared to get into battle. Victor, Medina on one side and Justin on the other. Both got quite different teams from one another, but probably quite familiar Pokemon for their respective trainers, I think. Both quite familiar with the Pokemon that they've picked to come into this event. Maybe not so much with Justin because he is rocking that Groudon.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see that team where two really exciting trainers here. I'm very excited to see them play. I'm a little disappointed to see them play against each other. I'd love to see both of them make it deep into this tournament. But you see Victor's team here first. Kind of what we've come to expect largely from this Shadow Rider Calyrex Zamazenta team. One thing to keep in mind is the Smeargle. I've seen a number of top players, including Japan's national champion, opting to go away from the Decorator and that Smeargle. A really fun move to watch, instead going for a fully support-oriented, maybe I guess defensive support-oriented Pokemon, maybe with the Wide Guard kind of taking that spot up. Having it when two different Pokemon going to be perhaps a bit of a problem for that Groudon on the other side. You know, Precipice Blades never seems to hit anyway, but definitely not going to hit through Wide Guard.
Yeah, and when you look at the Groudon on the opposite side, you think you've got double Wide Guard, so you've got a lot of options. Even if you lead with the Smeargle and that support line goes down, you've still got the Zamazenta to come in and kind of give you that additional protection as well. Some interesting Terastallization choices there for Victor, but he is one of those players, I think, I'm more familiar watching Victor quite frequently over in Europe, and he's been so close to getting that major title a lot of times earlier this season. LATAM finals, didn't quite get over the line, performed very well consistently at many regionals as well this season, but could this be the year? But before that, we need to get into Justin's team, running that Ice Rider Calyrex and Groudon combination that we haven't commonly seen so much of this season.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it, where it's like kind of one of those things that seems like it should have worked better in this format than it has, where Groudon, a historically really effective Pokemon in these GS Cup formats. You get kind of all these Pokemon, the nice synergy with the Sun it brings with that Drought ability, the Chlorophyll on the Jumpluff, the Photosynthesis on Fluttermane and on Raging Bolt, and then increasing the fire damage of that already devastating Chi-Yu. A lot of really exciting offensive potential on this team. I think another really fun thing to note is the moveset on that Calyrex. Maybe not so great in this particular matchup, but with the Imprison to really kind of put the clamps on any mirrors. I think probably any opposing traders that have the Calyrex Ice Rider maybe contributing to the win column for Justin Tang a little bit so far.
Yeah, maybe we won't say that play out as much as it's useful in maybe some of the other matches there, but the Jumpluff as well I think is a really nice addition that, you know, you may not think would be that effective coming into this format with how much Miraidon we see in the electric train, so you wouldn't really have the use of the sleep powder, but just in leaning on it quite a bit because of the options that it's got with that chlorophyll ability, the ease of getting the sun up and then utilizing things like the tailwind for the speed control. That encore as well can be so punishing, and then the Pollen Puff, useful to keep that Groudon intact, you know, when you can side Pollen Puff the Groudon, because it has got that Assault Vest, so you are going to be able to kind of stay in the field a little bit longer than maybe those clear amulet variants that you're kind of more commonly used to seeing.
Yeah, we've seen some big encore plays already so far today, and I think that could be really critical in this matchup. I mean, we have to see a lot of pivoting with this sort of team, and while the switching moves are not going to be punished by Jumpluff, everything else will. There are 3 different Pokemon in Victor's team that have Fake Out, a number of other support moves. We mentioned the Wide Guard before, and while those can all be very frustrating because they can prevent attacks on Justin's team from working, if he's able to lock these Pokemon to one of those moves, you kind of turn the tables a little bit, limit their options, and Jumpluff could be a key player here, which is a lot of fun. Pokemon we don't get to see too much, maybe going to get a chance to play a starring role.
Yeah, and that's it, and I don't really see too many options outside of the Rillaboom to sit in front of that Jumpluff pretty freely to be able to take those spores, but we are going to get started. Let's see Justin lead off with the Raging Bolt and the Chi-Yu. Victor go for the more tried and tested Calyrex Shadow Rider and that Incineroar.
Should be a lot of fun here. It's a very aggressive lead kind of for Justin, even though we don't see either of the restricted Pokemon. We do see a lot of potential damage from these two Pokemon, and it's kind of a cool spot, right, where how aggressively do you want to play it? Do you try and like maybe go for attack with these Pokemon? You assume Groudon's hiding in the back there with the opportunity to kind of switch into battle and activate Drought, so hey, if you call it, you could do a lot of damage by either activating Raging Bolt's ability or increasing the fire damage to the Chi-Yu, but also dangerous to their side. You don't want to make it easier for that Calyrex to get going, and then Incineroar is very threatening with its support moves.
Yeah, and that's the thing where the Chi-Yu has the option to go for that Terastallization. You burn it really early on, but you can avoid that Fake Out, potentially coming into that slot from the Incineroar, and then go for those big, powerful Snarls, maybe Dog Pulse into that Calyrex, but we are just seeing the Protect here. Victor wanted to scout out what the Chi-Yu locks into, and it will be that Heat Wave. Incineroar not really going to worry about that too much. A resisted hit, of course, so going to be able to return back with a choice of its own, but the Thunderbolt coming into that slot, and big damage, and the paralysis on top. So Justin really taking the opportunity when it is presented, get some big damage onto this supporting Pokemon, but the parting shot able to come out, no paralysis this time, getting a nice bit of chip onto the Chi-Yu, just lowering that special attack, which is going to be all important to getting around this really threatening Pokemon. And it looks like the Smeagol going to be entering the field. Another Pokemon with that active Fake Out, going to be able to maybe use it this time. It wasn't utilized on the Incineroar the turn before because of the options maybe there that were maybe going to let it fail.
Yeah, Moody not doing too much there at the reduced defense that could have mattered against these special attacking Pokemon, and neither will the special attack boost. Victor locking it pretty quickly here, kind of cycling in. Didn't get such a great trade in the first turn, but now going to see if he can perhaps get in a position to start getting some boosts on this Calyrex, because it is a very Calyrex-based composition that we see from him.
Well, we talked about the jump fluff, and now it does enter the field as the Chi-Yu leaves once more. And just to protect all around here from the Raging Bolt, the Calyrex going for a protect again itself, and the Smeagol going for the Spore. But really nice switch there from Justin to be able to get that Pokemon in that has that immunity to it. And again, not really a useful Moody boost there with that special attack. It's not going to be too handy this time around.
Yeah, 4 levels of increased special attack there. Unfortunately, Smeagol feeling special, but not able to show everyone how special that it is. Great switch there, avoiding the Spore, and now we're sort of in an interesting situation where you're theoretically threatening an Encore and 2 moves that maybe you don't want to get locked into, but Smeagol will have the option of taking a Follow Me in order to try to avoid getting the poor Calyrex locked into Encore and the Protect.
Well, it is the Groudon that comes to the field, and with it, we'll bring that Drought ability, summoning the Sun and activating that Chlorophyll ability, and the Encore coming out. No Follow Me from the Smeagol, punishing that Calyrex. It will be locked into the Protect for the foreseeable future.
Perhaps trading a Spore for that?
Maybe for that, yes. And probably a worthwhile one, because now you can maybe switch that Groudon out of the field, get something a little bit more effective that can come in, and maybe utilize that Jump Bluff now to go for the Spore into the Smeagol. Yeah,
kind of a tough match for restricted Pokemon here. Calyrex going to have to leave battle, but at least, you know, hasn't been too... Well, you really don't have to switch it out here, but instead on Justin Tang's side of the field as well, you would see the sleeping Groudon. So, you know, the restricted Pokemon asleep. There's 2 very offensively gifted, non-restricted Pokemon there with the Raging Bolt and the Chi-Yu, but we'll have to see how Justin tries to play this. Do you slow play it, try to leave the Groudon out, maybe eat some sleep turns so that later in the match, Groudon can do something offensively? You know, don't want it just to be bait for Calyrex later on if you can avoid it.
Well, to not leave it a sitting duck on the field, it does leave, and in place of it will come out the Incineroar. We'll be able to drop an Intimidate, which would be quite useful onto the Groudon if that does stick around on the field for Justin, and lowering that physical damage coming out. The Encore coming out from the Jump Bluff now into the Smeagol, and really shutting that option down for the foreseeable, as it is going to be locked into Spore. Not really effective, especially into a sleeping Pokemon like Groudon and the Jump Bluff. And the big important thing here is that Groudon does take a guaranteed sleep turn, so the next turn does have the chance to wake up. But the interesting thing with the Smeagol is it's got +4 in its speed now. That's 2 speed boosts it's had, so it is going to be maybe outspeeding that Jump Bluff now, potentially.
Yeah, sure to get the chance to attack. Right? This Spore is going to fail because Groudon can't wake up yet, but now it's a threat you have to deal with, right? You don't want to risk having Groudon wake up and get slept again. So the Sleep Powder is going to go down and put this Smeagol to sleep, but we've already seen this Incineroar lock in a Flare Blitz, and I don't think Jump Bluff's going to like that at all.
Not at all, and with that covered cloak, it hasn't got that security blanket of the Sash, so if it is targeted like we see here, it will be going down, boosted by the Sun, and an easy knockout. And Victor able to take down one of those big disruptive threats on Justin's side, while the Groudon, is it going to wake up? Is it not? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but it is going to pressure whatever comes back onto the field, because the Calyrex in the back of Victor still asleep, and another Moody boost, a defense boost here as well. This Smeagol's getting all the right boosts right now.
Yeah, now it's sort of a delicate spot where neither of Justin's remaining Pokemon have any way to avoid being put to sleep by that Spore, so you really have to hope that Groudon wakes up at some point. It has been intimidated, so it's not quite the setup you're looking for maybe if you're trying to get Calyrex in, so we're not going to see it quite yet, but yeah, Smeagol, you know, it's been awkward spots, kind of been pinned down by the Jump Bluff the whole time, but it's sort of controlling the battlefield.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, as soon as the Smeagol does wake up, if it can get through these sleep turns, it is going to be a real disruptive force for Víctor to be able to put a real pin on Justin, because you can automatically just put the Groudon back to sleep, you can put that Raging Ball to sleep, you don't really need to worry about those threats. And then when you've got the Restricted next to it that's going to be able to constantly go for these body presses like we're seeing now from the Zamazenta, it's going to be a real hard Pokemon to deal with. We are going to see the Thunderbolt now from the Raging Bolt into that Smeagol. It is going to take it down to its sash, so all we need now is Justin's Groudon to potentially wake up here this next turn, get an attack off, but that Encore has ended. And another speed boost for the Smeagol with that Moody.
Yeah, the Smeagol saw Meowth driving that car earlier in the trailer. It's like, you know what, I can go pretty fast too. I don't even need a car.
We just needed to wake up this next turn. If it does, it can prevent that Raging Bolt from being effective, but the Groudon now will wake up. We've had that 3 guaranteed sleep turns, so we know what's coming out. The Groudon is going to be able to go for an attack, potentially remove the Smeagol, which is going to be a big aid to Justin. We see the body press come out again, and it's a critical hit. It's a huge knockout. You would have thought from the original damage that it would have been able to take that, but no. Víctor capitalizing on the position with the body press and removing the Groudon.
Well, that's a huge problem. Not only that, but the Sun's also going to wear off this turn, going to reduce the damage of both the Raging Bolt and the Chiyu's attacks, and suddenly things are looking pretty bleak here. Smeagol's going to have a chance to wake up for this next turn, and the speed boost made it really threatening, right? Where perhaps Raging Bolt wouldn't have needed to bother targeting without those speed boosts, and it could have ended up with a little different situation here. And that critical hit, would have likely led to a situation where without it, the Smeagol maybe would have got knocked out, the Zamazenta would have been weakened, and now it's tough. Justin Tang down to 2 Pokemon. Without Groudon getting preserved there, Chiyu's going to have to lock into 1 move for the rest of the game, and Victor's looking like he might get an advantage here in this first game of the set.
Yeah, especially with that Shadow Rider Calyrex at the back. If you can kind of deal with that Chiyu in an effective way before the Calyrex comes back in, it's going to have an easier time to close this matchup. So it's all about this Smeagol now. If this Smeagol wakes up, can really disrupt with the Spore into either one of these targets on just the side of the field, it can be the difference to swing the game. We are just seeing a Protect from the Zamazenta here. Just wants to check out what this Chiyu locks into, but before that, we are going to see a all-important Spore. The Smeagol wakes up into the Raging Bolt, and now that Pokemon will be sleeping for the next turn at least. And it is the overheat that the Chiyu locks into in that Zamazenta, so we know what single target attack, which is actually pretty big information now that you know you've got that Calyrex in the back and there's no threat of those dark type attacks.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of terrible on a few levels too, right? Where I think when you're locked into overheat with only 2 Pokemon remaining like this, you have no way to reset your special attack. And the Smeagol only has 1 hit point, but now Chiyu's going to have to use overheat this turn. So a Follow Me would allow it to reduce special attack by 2 levels just to take the 1 HP of damage. Justin realizing, okay, there's no way I'm getting out of this one. And we see a very strange game, but a pretty decisive win by Víctor in the end.
Yeah, and really kind of dictated by the Moody boost and how powerful that ability could be. And I don't want to just give all the credit to Smeagol and Moody, but it did have a big sway in that game in allowing the Smeagol to be in a position where they didn't really have to worry about maybe the items like that Choice Scarf on the Chiyu when it came into battle. And Víctor did get the wake up at the right time.
And a little bit, there's some team construction depth there too. Or I think one of the things that Smeagol kind of just realized, like, hey, maybe over the course of the tournament, you're going to get a game or two where Smeagol kind of just takes it for you, right? It's one of the benefits you get for having Smeagol on your team. The trade-off there is this Pokemon providing 0 offense, and some games maybe you'll have the reverse where your speed drops a few times and you can't win situations that you're supposed to be able to. That one, Smeagol does a great job, but I think Víctor just plays it really well too, where the first few Moody boosts were not beneficial for this Smeagol, right? But it was able to stay on the field for so long because Justin wasn't really able to do anything about it, but it got enough rolls. Eventually you can get that speed boost. Moody does increase the stat, it increases by 2 levels, where it only reduces the stat by 1. So, in theory, Smeagol staying in the field for 100 turns or whatever, it's going to max out all of its stats. Just happened to get speed a little more quickly than the others this time.
And I think the thing is as well, the body press critical hit probably did matter there because
that too, yes,
would have made it. But we'll see if there are any adjustments as we get into game 2 here. And it looks like Justin is leading out with the Raging Ball, the Chiyu, and Víctor staying with the tried and tested Calyrex Shadow Rider and the Incineroar.
I'm not too shocked to see no adjustments from Justin's side of the field there while he lost that first game. Probably feel like, hey, if the rolls had gone a more statistically probable way, maybe I could have won that one anyway. We think back to the first game, there was that big double target on the Incineroar, right? Where at first Justin had the luck where he got the paralysis on the Thunderbolt, but even the combination of the 2 attacks not enough. This time, Calyrex going to go for an attack on this first turn.
We do see the fake out into the Chi-Yu. No terrestrialization there, and followed up with a big Astral Barrage from this Calyrex. Is it going to be enough to get the Raging Bolt?
No.
It is. That is a huge knockout onto the Raging Bolt before it can even move. And the Chi-Yu going to be stuck, flinched by that fake out, and a Grim Near boost already from this Life Orb boosted Calyrex.
I think noteworthy there is that you're probably like, oh no, another critical hit, but no, that did not show up there. That was non-critical hit damage, very offensively oriented Raging Bolt. We saw the benefit of that last game. We're doing an incredible amount of damage to the Incineroar, but this time taking an incredible amount of damage from that Calyrex. It's a really big knockout here, and quickly Justin Tang is in trouble, in danger of getting that first loss of the tournament.
Yeah, and this is an awkward position as well. When the Chi-Yu's on the field, you can just go for the Protect like you're seeing now to see what it locks into, and that's exactly what Victor does with the Calyrex. As we see the Heat Wave locked in too, not going to be, once again, very effective into this Incineroar, going to take minimal damage, but now has to contend with the Groudon that's on the field, and it is a high horsepower following that up. No Intimidate onto the Groudon here, and it is going to be able to remove the Incineroar, but this opens the door for Victor to just bring something more preferable onto the field to support this Calyrex.
Yeah, Smeargle perhaps will be able to come in and help support. I mean, Zamazetta's, the type matchup here is truly awful, although the wide guard support would be beneficial. The Chi-Yu is locked into a spread move. Going to be Smeargle instead. And one thing to keep in mind as well, that Chi-Yu model is dishing out all of this damage. Its ability is also hurting a little bit, right? Perhaps increasing the damage from Calyrex on its partner Pokemon. I think is probably necessary in the knockout we saw the first turn. And now with the boosted level of special attack as well for this Calyrex, Groudon does not want to get hit by another Astral Barrage, Assault Vest, or no.
No, especially after the boost, like you say, but Chi-Yu wanting to get out of the fray, it is switching out, and just making a bit of an adaptation. The Jumpluff gonna make its way onto the field now. Terrestrialization going to be locked in from one of our players. It will be into the Groudon here. The Groudon going to have that fire-type terrestrialization, boosting those fire-type attacks that it does have. The Heat Crash will be quite threatening if we don't see a Follow Me from the Smeargle, especially if it's into this Calyrex. We are going to see the Wide Guard, though. What does the Groudon lock into? If it's that Precipice Blades, it is not going to land this turn. And the Astral Barrage in return, not boosted by that Beat of Rune anymore. Now the Chi-Yu's off the field.
Oh no!
Huge damage and a massive critical hit into the Groudon. So unfortunate for Justin, but Victor really clutching and taking advantage of the opportunities that are being presented.
That's tough. That time we do see the critical hit, and I'm certain that critical hit did matter there. We don't get to see what Justin locked into. You'd assume with the fire terrestrialization that was probably a Heat Crash that would perhaps have knocked out that Calyrex in a single blow. So maybe would have been a really nice turn by Justin to turn the game around. Instead, it's going to look like a pretty decisive 2-0 lead for Victor here. I don't know how these poor Pokemon are going to be able to battle back from this deficit.
No, it feels almost impossible at this point, doesn't it? I mean, you've got the Jumpluff here. It is going to be the fastest thing on the field with that Sun Up, with the Chlorophyll. You can utilize that Sleep Powder, but the Smeargle could just go for the Follow Me here and just completely protect the Calyrex. You've still got to be careful around the Snarl, and maybe that's why we see the Wide Guard.
It's like maybe a single target in the Smeargle, like an Encore in the Calyrex. You get stuck with the last two Pokemon. Be a Sleep Powder instead, so potentially even better. But we'll have to see what the Chi-Yu opts to do here.
It is going to be the Heat Wave that it locks into, and it is just going to be into the Protect. Does it land with the Smeargle? It looks like it will just be into the Protect there for the Wide Guard that does give that full protection, and a Handshake is coming across. Astral Barrage coming out, and it will be enough to pick up the knockout on both these Pokemon. This is such a quick turnaround and a very, very convincing win from Victor Medina.
I mean, that's just what you see sometimes in this format, right? The power of these Pokemon is so overwhelming. And, one little mess up, or in this case, a couple of tough rolls, and the game can snowball so hard. It's why Calyrex Shadow Rider has been the most used restricted Pokemon all season long, where if you give it an inch, it takes a mile.
Yeah, and I think in particular, when we're not talking about the critical hits, the Astral Barrage that was able to get onto the Raging Bolt at that turn 1 of Game 2, that was a knockout. So that was a big turning point as well. The first Grim Near boost, and then yeah, the second critical hit, like you say, is just really unfortunate, because in that scenario we would have seen the Heat Crash into the Calyrex. There was no redirection from the Smeargle, and I think things might have played out a little bit differently, knowing that the Zamazenta was in the back, and you've still got an active Chi-Yu if you're Justin. So like you say, the domino can fall sometimes, and it can just be an impossible challenge to come back from.
Yeah, I mean, even the best players, right? I mean, this is a format where it's one of the reasons why it's so difficult. These Pokemon deal so much damage, and the Calyrex forms in particular, they snowball so hard because they get those boosted attacking stats after they pick up knockouts. And yeah, I think in that second game, there's a real world where Justin turns that around. And even the first game, right, maybe without the critical hit on the Zamazenta, could have been a very different game. And Victor able to get the rolls there and able to play well enough that, getting a little bit of RNG was enough that he could lock the game down pretty easily. It wound up being a quick set there if you're Justin. Maybe you don't feel too bad about that, right? It sucks to get that loss, and but it's still 6-1, still a great place to be in this tournament. Still looking like he's got to go. I think he's going to win. 2 of the next 3 rounds, so still very doable achievement for a trainer who had already gotten to 6-0. So, sometimes you're going to have a match like this one, maybe just the way to look at it is like, I'm glad this didn't happen in the top cut.
Exactly, and I think that would be the best way to look at it. It is really unfortunate, but like you say, I think coming to this stage of the tournament so far and with this record and how that match kind of unfolded, it's not really something you should look at and be like, oh, this is down to my performance. I think there was a lot of things out of your control in that match where, you could maybe have adapted, you could have maybe switched or led a little bit differently, but for the 9 times out of 10 in that scenario, if you just played it like you wanted it to go, it wouldn't have turned out like it did in the end. So just a bit unfortunate, but you've got to give credit to Victor as well, I think, in a lot of places, because although there was a number of fortunate turns, you've got to put yourself in those positions to get those fortunate turns pay off, as well. So, and Victor now sitting on 7-0 record.
Yeah, so just needs to win 1 of the remaining 3 rounds to guarantee a place in the top cut. Of course, always love to do a little bit better than that. Maybe put yourself in a little better position once you get to that point in the tournament. But really impressive performance by him. And then, I mean, even if he hadn't gotten those positive bits of luck, I don't think the game would have been over the other direction either, right? He was still very much in it. It's just that he was able to take a situation where maybe he was a little advantaged, maybe he was a little disadvantaged, and just get straight to that 100% chance to win.
Yeah, it's one of these matches that I really enjoyed the match, but it could have been, it was one I was really looking forward to for both players that I've followed all this season and thinking, wow, they're going head to head against each other, so this is going to be, and then to end kind of the way it did, you kind of want a different outcome. Or can we run it back again and just,
we probably got time, right? Like the other round, they're playing other games probably just barely in game 2. Let's just pretend that never happened. Maybe do that again.
Let's do it again.
I mean, it's too bad, right? Because it's like they're such good players, and like I don't really feel like sometimes when this happens, like, oh, that player took a big risk, and like you can justify the risk, but that made it cost the match dead quickly. This one, it's not quite what happened. There wasn't really anything you could do, but Pokemon's like that sometimes.
It's definitely like that, and I think both players have probably had many scenarios like that in the past, and probably will have more in the future. But on that note, Victor is ready on stage, so we can throw it over to hear a bit more insight, how he feels after that last match and going 7-0 in this tournament.
Thank you so much. I'm here with Victor Medina. Congratulations on going undefeated 7 rounds of Swiss. How does it feel?
I still don't fully believe it, I think. My last 3 Worlds in Master, I lost round 1. So being 7-0, it feels like kind of a dream. I want to win 1 more of the 3. I want to top cut. So job is not done. I want to do my best. I want to take it home. But of course, it's very, very difficult to do so.
Very difficult, but you're running a team that you're very comfortable with, having running it in Bologna and NAIC. What was your prep like going into this tournament? Did you make changes?
Yeah, I made some slight changes. Going into this tournament, I tried a lot of stuff. I tried a lot of archetypes. I didn't set on this team at first. But then when I played, I said, like, what's wrong with this? I made 2 top cuts. I think it's good into the meta. And so here I am with this team once again.
For sure, it's good into this meta. You have the results to prove it. Tell me about that matchup against Justin Tang. It felt like it was very close in that game 1.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of robbed him of game 1. I think he deserved it, but that crit, those sleep turns, I had to go for that. But he really got me in turn 1. Justin is a great player and a great friend. So we never played, actually. This is the first time I'm playing Justin. So I really wanted to play Justin to do good games, and we really did. I think we did. I think game 2 was better for me, of course, because I got that read in turn 1, and I think from then on, the match was almost set. But in game 1, yeah, I think he deserved the game, and he played amazingly.
In that game too, did you know that that turn 1 read would be so important?
Going into the matchup, I didn't, but when I saw game 1, I was like, there's no way that he tears the Chiyu turn 1. So I felt like it was kind of safe knowing how Justin plays. So yeah.
All right, well, that's the confidence of someone who clearly locked in day 2 at Worlds multiple times at this point. Victor, do you have any shout outs you want to give to anybody at home?
Of course. I want to shout out Team C, that is the friend group that I'm with Justin, and a lot more. I want to shout out Antonio Sanchez, who is actually 4-2 right now and is playing. We prep together. I want to shout out Sufi, Espe. I want to shout out the whole European community, the whole Spanish community, and everyone who supports me. I'm so happy to be here, and yeah, so excited. I'll do my best.
Your excitement is absolutely contagious. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And thank you for showing such an incredible match. Best of luck in the rest of the tournament. And we're going to be back with more action here from the World Championships after this break. So please stay tuned.